Hello everybody, welcome to session 3 of these PSHE lessons. Just trying to help you understand some of the global issues around the Black Lives Matter movement and some of the terms that are being used, and if you want them, to give you some ideas about how you can increase your own knowledge of a topic which may not be familiar to you and potentially use that knowledge if you so desire. Okay, so the first thing I'd like to do is just to make sure you've understood some of the terms. So it's a little close activity here, i.e. a fill in the gaps. So you'll see I've written out a little paragraph that summarises some key things, but I've taken out a few words which I've listed here. All you need to do, I've said copy the paragraph, you don't necessarily need to do that. You could number the spaces instead and then number the words to save time. So it says Black Lives Matter is a movement that started in, so I look in the list and I know it started in America. So I could either copy that out and add the word, or I could write number 1, America, okay, to save myself a little time. So please can you pause the video, add the words. If there's a word, if you a gap you think, oh, I really don't know which word goes there, then just leave that one blank and do the ones you can do first and then come back to the ones you're stuck on. Can you please pause the video, see how many words you can match to the spaces, and then restart the video. Okay, so let's run through this together. Then you can self-assess this task. Black Lives Matter is a movement that started in America in response to the deaths of black people due to actions by the police. The term Black Lives Matter does not mean that other lives don't matter. It's pointing out that black lives seem to be undervalued, and things need to change in order to bring about equality. One of the issues the Black Lives Matter movement aims to highlight is white privilege. White privilege can be thought of as an invisible force that means white people have more benefits and advantages in society just because of skin colour. The movement also aims to end systemic racism. When racism becomes so ingrained it's seen as normal, it is called systemic racism. It's not about individuals being racist, but the structures of our society discriminating against people due to skin colour. Systemic racism includes racial stereotyping, which causes unfair judgments to be made against black people. People make assumptions about other people that are totally unfair and inaccurate based on skin colour. We call this unconscious bias. This means that people can be prejudiced against black people without even realising it. We can all make an effort to end racism by becoming, see which one I've got left here. We're becoming allies. These are people who make a real effort to better understand the lives and experiences of others and offer support to bring about positive change. Okay, so obviously you can go back through those, but hopefully you managed to get those words. Okay, so an interesting thing happened in the last couple of weeks. This is Priti Patel. You may have heard of Priti Patel. She's the Home Secretary. So she's a really important person in this country. She's a high position of power. In June 2020, she revealed that when she started her career, she was advised to change her surname to her husband's name so that she would be called Sawyer instead of Patel. And it was suggested to her that she would be more successful if her surname was Sawyer instead of Patel. I just want you to think, based on what we've been looking at in these sessions, why do you think someone would have given her this advice? And how does it relate to what you've learned about systemic racism? So if you could pause the video, have a think about the 2 questions and then restart the video, please. Okay, so obviously this is hugely complex. There's lots of complex reasons she may have been given this advice. But when Priti Patel presented this in the House of Commons, it was from the perspective that it was a consequence of systemic racism, that people giving her this advice weren't doing it to be unkind, they were trying to help her. They were suggesting that her life opportunities would be heightened if people perceived her to be white. The surname Sawyer sounds white. So it's an example of white privilege, really, and the way in which sometimes if people think that you are white, it can give you advantages in the world. Okay, another thing I saw in the media which I found really inspiring was a wonderful girl called Evie Gordon. Now, Evie is a Cornish young lady and she grew up mixed race. And she was on BBC News because amid the current protests about race, she wrote a little poem, a poem which was trying to communicate to us some of her experiences. And I've saved her clip in this Dropbox link. So if you go back to show my homework, you'll find this link and you can just click on it there. And you can have a little listen to Evie's poem. She's a really wonderful young woman, fantastic poem. But what I'd like you to do once you've listened to it is to answer the question here. What did Evie experience because of her race? Are there any examples of systemic racism or white privilege in her story? What have you learned from listening to her poem? And what is your personal response to the poem? So please watch the video, pause this video, answer the questions, and then restart this video. Thank you very much. Great, I hope you enjoyed Evie's video. I think it's a lot of insights we can gain into how somebody's life, because of skin colour, can be different or can be caused problems totally unnecessarily. Okay, I've got a quote here from Angela Y. Davis, and she said, "In a racist society, it's not enough to be non-racist, we must be anti-racist." And that was another thing I thought, well, that's an interesting idea. And what she suggests really is that non-racist is somebody who's not racist, someone who doesn't think terrible things about human beings just because of skin colour, who doesn't think that there's some superiority to some people because of their skin colour. But what she's suggesting is that it's not just enough not to be racist, we have to actively stand against it, which is can be quite challenging, I think. But she suggested, and people have suggested, that to be an anti-racist doesn't mean making big political statements or challenging people. Actually, it can just be about raising awareness and knowledge. If we understand more about what is faced by Black people and some of the issues around racism, and we're not afraid to say that we think it is wrong, then that can be a start towards an anti-racist society. And some ideas, I did a bit of research into this, and some ideas about how to be an anti-racist were really being aware of our own behaviour, thinking about whether anything we do might contribute to a racist system without us realising, to learn about inequalities, to learn about the different things that are happening in the world, which is really what I've been trying to help you do through these sessions. Examine your own views and beliefs. And this one, champion anti-racist ideas and policies. So if there's an organisation in the community that is creating racial equality and is challenging racism, it's a way to get involved is to take part in that. And this is the really tough one, I think. It says challenge people who are racist. And I'm not suggesting for a second that we do that in a confrontational or aggressive way, but if we have knowledge, if people say things which actually are racist or prejudiced, it's easier to challenge it. I disagree with that because. So for those of you who want to understand issues of racism more, I thought you might find this interesting. And it's not dissimilar to being an ally, is it? To being someone who wants to support people who perhaps are being disadvantaged because of skin colour. Okay, so we'll conclude this with an optional task. If you would like to, if you feel that actually you would like to be anti-racist, you'd like to be an ally, you could have a go at writing your own anti-racism poem, like Evie did. Perhaps your poem can express what you want to do to become an ally. Perhaps you can talk about why we should all actively stand against racism in the world. If you choose to do this task, please send your poem to your PSHE teacher. Thank you very much, guys.